A seemingly long time by now, Richard Sackett, in his most kind of beguiling manner, suggested that I might give a talk or a lecture to your society, and was even bold enough to suggest a topic I might consider, which was the physicians of Myddfai, in Welsh, the Gydon Myddfai. So don't blame me, but blame him for what follows. Now, to begin with, I need to say something by way of necessary background. Well, it has been mentioned, Myddfai is a parish in the remotest and most rural Carmarthenshire, close to the town of Llandovery. It is a kind of quiet country idyll. The place of my birth and upbringing, no less. But last November, as it has been indicated, within a week of today's date, it became to the fore somewhat, since Prince Charles and Mrs. Camilla purchased a farm there called Llwyn Wernod. So now the whole world knows about Myddfai and And I saw, he was on television this afternoon, never mind, that's another thing. Now, to begin at the very beginning of things, I wish to say something about a man by the name of Dioscorides. Now, with a name like that, you might think he was a Welshman. But he was a Greek who was born and lived at Tarsus, which is now in Turkey, around the year 60 AD. This was also the birthplace of the Apostle Paul, and it's very likely that Dioscorides and Paul knew of each other. Now, Dioscorides wrote the first pharmacopoeia, which we would now describe probably as a herbal. Now, this was a manuscript, and a pharmacopoeia is what doctors consult whenever they're not sure what to do. Now, this was a manuscript volume in 5 parts, which dealt primarily with the medicinal and healing properties of plants. In fact, 600 different plant species were described, but also 35 animal products and about 90 minerals and their medicinal properties and significance. Now, this manuscript was not illustrated and was ultimately lost, but it has to a large extent been the extent and basis of medicinal practice for about 1500 years. Copies of the original, however, were made, and then copies of the copies were made, but which were considerably changed, but nevertheless that's what they were in essence. In the period from about the 15th to the 17th, from the 12th century, to the 17th. And this happened throughout Western Europe, the Mediterranean region, and the Middle East. One of the most notable of these copies was made in Salerno, Italy, in the period 1280 to 1290. This is now held at the British Library and is probably one of the most precious and sumptuous documents in that institution. It is really a magnificent illustrated herbal. Now, just 3 years ago, the British Library published a facsimile photographed copy of the original, and this is a copy. You can look at it at the end. Oh, it's a magnificent thing, really magnificent. The covers would have been different. And so I looked at it afterwards. Now, and some of you may be wondering how the physicians of Myddfai fit into this great tradition of writing herbals. Now, sometimes in the period 1250 to 1300 or thereabouts, a small manuscript herbal was written in Welsh And the opening paragraph goes as follows, translated into English. Here, by God's help, Almighty and Supreme, is shown the special and principal medicinal remedies for a man's body. And those that caused them to be written in this manner were Rhywason, and I want you to remember that name, Rhywason, that's the only one thing I want you to remember, as it were. Rhywason, the physicians, and his sons, none other than Cadogan, Griffith, and Einon. And so effectively, Rhywason was the kind of first physician. Now, a copy of the original manuscript is housed at the Bodleian Library in Oxford as part of a general combination of old manuscripts under the general title, The Red Book of Hergest. Now, and it is one of these manuscript copies which bears the Latin title Myddfai, or Myddfai as it was written. That is, the physicians of Myddfai. This manuscript is made out as about 188 recipes and recommendations. It's worth bearing in mind that herbals were being written throughout Western Europe and the Mediterranean region. And what I want to consider now is what the physicians of Myddfai had to say in this matter. And I want to present them in this way. It's convenient to divide the recommendations or treatments into 7 groups, which I shall try to briefly outline and say something about them. And I'll just list the 7 first, just as names, and then deal with them. Firstly, herbal remedies, pure and simple. Simple, remember. Secondly, herbal remedies allied to magical, religious, and superstitious practices. Thirdly, remedies which deal with infection by parasitic worms. Then fourthly, the examination of urine as a diagnostic tool. Fifth, the process of bleeding and bloodletting. Sixth, dangerous stays and their significance. And then lastly, diet and lifestyle. I want to start now and go deal with them. Firstly, herbal remedies, pure and simple. The original meaning of the word simple, it's really associated with medicine, was that of a medicine made from just a single plant or a single substance. That is what it was called simple, just because it contained one thing. A medicine made using more than one species of plants would not be described as simple, it would be described as a mixture.